One of the strangest box office weeks you will ever see.
Yeah, I would kind of give you that one. But a surprisingly decent one nonetheless. So hopefully this is coming through well enough. But as it stands, you've got Renaissance, which was the Beyonce live concert she brought out, 21 million this weekend. The Hunger Games in its third weekend, pulling in 14.5. Godzilla -1 at 11. Trolls Band Together, Wish it's done. Napoleon almost beats Wish again. Animal, not real familiar with that one, but I've heard a few things. And then you've got the Marvels way down there, 2.5 million. That one's done. This is why Disney is ready to.
So Marvels is out of the top 10. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
in week 4, right?
Yeah. So this is where you are. We're kind of done here. It's going to finish up at about 225-ish, I think, what we talked about before. That's kind of what I was projecting after that first weekend. I think, as I said, it'll probably get to about that, and that's all she wrote. And welcome aboard, Michelle from Force of Light. Glad you made it.
Yes, good to be here. Good to see everyone.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
So does anybody want to add any comments to this? I feel like we've beaten this thing to death, but any final post-mortem thoughts as we drive the final nails into the coffin that is the MCU?
Is this the fastest the Disney company has ever waved a white flag on any movie ever in their history?
Strange World was pretty big.
You think they threw in the towel for Strange World on week 4?
I think they threw in the towel for Strange World before opening
I would say
day.
week 1. Yeah.
Okay. You guys beat me with the one from last year.
Pro, what do you mean by throwing in the towel? What are they doing or not doing? Are they pulling marketing?
They're saying that they're no longer going to report their international sales for the film past this weekend.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there a marketing budget that got pulled from Strange World in order to prop up Wakanda Forever?
That's what we had heard last year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not to say that they took every penny, but they took a significant chunk of it. They still have to throw marketing dollars at these things. When they book movies like this in theaters, if you're going to say, hey, we want your PLF screens, we want your IMAX screens, and we want them for at least 2 weekends, or at least one of the 2 that you have for 2 weekends, the theaters turn around and they say, okay, you can book 4,000 screens, including all these PLFs and everything else, but the exchange is you have to market these things. You can't just throw them in here and take up our valuable real estate, and then we're sitting there going, okay, Disney. So they have to spend so much money to do this. It's one of the reasons why like Godzilla -1 was only in like 1,900 screens when it first started, Wednesday this past week, which is a lot for a film like that.
But let's ask the question here, Valiant. Are theaters wishing, and no pun there, but in retrospect, did theaters get this very badly wrong in terms of screen allocation? It seems to me that they should have thrown everything at Godzilla -1, and if you're AMC, thrown everything at Beyonce. Now, the Beyonce numbers are more impressive than they might normally look, but that's because they are AMC exclusive. And so the fact that it made as much money as it did is very impressive out of a single theater chain. Hunger Games is fine, but if you look at the number of screens Godzilla was given, and you compare that to Wish, for example, it is a terrible misallocation, in my opinion, of seats.
Well, but it's also a matter of what did
contractual obligations.
What did they book, right? Because these studios they book these screens, and they come to agreements. They come to terms of rentals and whatnot based on how they book and what they book. So, like Godzilla -1, that's actually not being distributed. They didn't get an American partner to distribute that film. That, in retrospect, may have been a mistake because they didn't have the power and the money of a Sony or somebody else. Now, there was some discussion last night. I think Tom from Midnight's Edge brought it up, and it makes a lot of sense, is that there was something said about that this movie had to be in and out of theaters in the U.S. before January 1st because of the MonsterVerse that Warner Brothers has with the Godzilla Kong movie next year. So because of licensing and whatnot, this couldn't be distributed by a U.S. distributor. It couldn't be done by a Universal or a Disney or a Sony, or certainly not by Warner Brothers. They have the partnership with Legendary for those films. So Toho which is the Japanese company, did their own distribution international for Japan, here in the U.S. So they booked, originally it was 1,900 screens. It boosted another 400 screens after they saw the results they were getting. And you have to also remember that they did not have that many screenings booked for that opening weekend initially. When I bought tickets a month ago, there was like 2 or 3 screenings booked. Now, fortunately, they managed to get a PLF screen, which was great. By the time the movie opened Wednesday and I pulled up the roster, they had like a whole week and a half, 2 weeks of screenings booked out now. So they've really stretched this thing.
Next weekend's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, this thing could do another 11 million next weekend. It could have a perfect hold. It could
and
do
all
more.
of that's
it
profit.
Could do less.
All of that's profit because it's already made its break even in Japan.
More or less. I mean, from what we've seen, I mean, now the budget that they're suggesting reported, and I'm hitting it on the wrong screen, of course, because that's what I'm used to. Got to go to my laptop. The budget they're reporting for this is $15 million. And if you've seen this movie, people are asking themselves, how the hell?
I can't
Looks
believe
like it cost $250.
Yeah, it does.
Compared to what we spend here.
Amazing.
What we talked about last night on Flashcast, it was what I was saying is that the reason this thing cost what it cost is largely because the scale of labor, the cost of that type of labor in Japan where this was filmed, strikingly different than what we have here in the States.
So let's make everything in Japan from now on then. Why would we ever make anything in the U.S. if Japan can make something like this for that price?
Why do you think Universal, we've talked about this before, Pro, why do you think Universal still maintains Illumination in France?
Well,
That's why
all I
Super
can
Mario
tell you
Brothers
is
cost $100 million and not $200 million like a Disney movie.
If
the
director
unions in California,
if this director can do this, and if Japan can produce this kind of quality at that kind of cost, but that's all we need.
Well, you saw what
Give
he
me
wants
more
to do.
Japanese content, please. I'm begging you. I will watch all of it.
You saw what he wants to do.
Star Wars, and I have strong opinions in both directions on that.
Yep.
He's the kind of person who could save it, but I fear for him being thrown to the wolves and trying to do so.
Well, that's exactly it. Is that if they would give him a Star Wars project like Lucasfilm did with what was the anime shows they did? The name of them?
Visions.
Visions. Thank you, Lorena.
Yeah.
Those were very beautifully done. I didn't like all 8 of them, but there was 3 or 4 of them that were just awesome. And it's because they said, here, we're going to give these 8 anime studios in Japan, 8 legit pedigreed anime studios in Japan, in Tokyo, Star Wars. Do with it whatever you want. Make a short, 20, 30-minute thing. And they did. Disney didn't get over on top of them and say, we want you to do this, make it like this, add another chick in it, make it lame and gay. None of that stuff. It was, they said, just do it. And they came up with beautiful stories. It was better than anything Disney has done. And if this director, and he said this out of hand, obviously, I'd love to do a Star Wars movie. But they'd have to do it like they did with Visions. Give him a realm in Star Wars. Say, here, make a movie on it. We'll back you. And then leave him the hell alone. You'll get a good movie.
Well, this guy made Godzilla -1 for $15 million. It looks like it cost $250. Yep. He's also the same director who did The Great War of Archimedes, which L.W. Ghost, and many on the panel know who L.W. Ghost actually is. He says it's one of the best movies of the last 5 years. So I'm here to tell you, I think that this gentleman, and his name escapes me for the moment, Takashi Yamazaki, I think he's the best director on earth. That's what I think. I think he is the number one guy. And I'm here to tell you, I think they should re-release Godzilla with an English dub. I would prefer to watch it with the subtitles. This is so good that they should re-release it, and they should prepare to give it everything they have if he chooses to do a sequel, because this could easily be a massive blockbuster series going forward.
You know what, Pro? And it's interesting because when I was watching this movie and I was in a row full of just like kaiju fans, watching this, I felt like I was a little kid again on a Saturday morning watching a badly English dub, how the dubbing was off back then, but just totally wrapped up in it. And that was the only ding that I had, just purely from a superficial, selfish point of view. I wanted an English dub. Yeah, I know. I watched. We only got the sub version,
Okay,
but I
that's we have
really
the
wish
subtitles.
that
Yeah.
we could have had like a dubbed version, just to have it, just for that nostalgic factor would have been great, and I think it would have made definitely make more
Re-release it.
money.
It's incredible.
Re-release it. And just to add to that international angle, that movie Animal that you were asking about, Valiant, that is a Bollywood film.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I've
I'd
noticed
seen the name
more
pop
and
up.
more Bollywood movies and Hollywood movies and Canada movies making money in the US.
Well, it's easy
talking
for
about
them
how
too, because
weird.
they don't have a hurdle to get over. I mean, when you look at the cost of production for those things versus what we do here, they send them here. If they make $10-15 million at the American box office, they're rolling in it. They're rolling in it. I mean, especially the Bollywood films. But with
We're
minus
talking about
one,
how weird the box office is real quick. Who could have ever imagined that we would be in a time and place where a foreign film that is only subtitled and has a $15 million budget would be the number 3 film at the box office and could climb in its second week. And the number 1 film was limited to only one theater chain and is a concert special event. I mean, this is the craziest box office ever, and it's happening because the behemoths have exited the stage because they're too busy fighting the culture war rather than creating excellent content.
Yeah, I think this movie, and as much as I don't like dubs, I'd rather watch the subtitle versions. Just like I do with anime. I watch the subtitle versions. I want the original actors in the original Japanese language because that's where they're telling the stories the way they want to tell it. If they'd had a dub, this might have done $20 million this weekend. Because there are people out there that don't like subtitles and they don't want to watch stuff with subtitles. I get it. There is an audience, there's a market for that. But I'll say this real quickly. I mean, it's a beautiful story. It's exceptionally well done. The human characters are real. They are lovable characters. I guess, to lack of better words, they're very well-rounded characters. It feels definitely like a Japanese storytelling style. If you're familiar with anime, you probably know what I'm talking about. But the beautiful thing about this is that it takes place in it's occupied Japan. It's immediate post-World War II Japan. The American Navy is too busy dealing with Russia and Korea, and they basically have to leave the remnants of Japan to fend for themselves against what Godzilla shows up. And the story's great. The main character is a kamikaze pilot with survivor's guilt, and he meets a woman, and they find a child that was abandoned, orphaned when their parents were killed in the first Godzilla attack. So it's a family by force. It's a mother and a father and a child that have no related capacity to one another, and they make it work. And it's really well performed. I will say from a technical aspect, and I'll leave it here. Technically, what I love about this movie is this. It's got this gorgeous blues and orange desaturated color palette. The color grade on it is beautiful. It's the kind of thing you'd see Steven Spielberg do for Saving Private Ryan. It's a desaturated 1940s World War II looking film. All the hallmarks of that are there. I think that went a long way to lending a lot of leeway to the animators, the VFX artists, and post-production to make Godzilla, even though you knew you were looking at something that was CGI, it looked like it was shot in camera. It was so well integrated into the film, it was mind-boggling how good it looked. It looked like he was there on that screen, and the camera was pointed at him, filming him with all this stuff going on. There was a couple of shots in there that were, not of him, not of Godzilla, but of other things. But my point is that it goes to show you what you can do with careful planning. Yeah, $15 million. Yeah. Careful planning, dedication, love of the craft, and love of the audience. And you make a product like this that looks just spectacular. And I go back to the Spielberg thing. We've been joking about this all week. Take Godzilla and marry it up with Jaws. And that's what you got in several scenes.
That's it, exactly.
And it was so much fun to watch. Renegade Jr. and I saw it Wednesday night. That was the first showing that they had. And it was a blast. So I'll leave it there. If anybody wants to comment on the movie real quick. I didn't want to go into a long review, but I just thought it was just fun enough to, bring it since we're talking box office.
I saw it late last night, and I want to extend an invitation on this live stream to Godzilla. Godzilla, there's a party in your honor at Burbank. You just have to look for a building that has the 7 dwarves on it and ask for Mr. Iger. Thank you.
Michelle, Ron, have y'all seen this, or are y'all planning on seeing it? I don't know.
Well, I guess I have to say, after hearing this, I'm gonna have to play some hooky and go see that picture.
I think it's one of the
best Godzilla movie of all time.
I was gonna wait till my kid Max got here at Christmas, and I went anyways because I like the people I know and trust kept saying good stuff, and I'm like, son of a bitch. So I went late last night. I walked out and I was like, I mean, there were a couple times in the middle of the movie I was just kind of like, okay, this is dragging a little bit, but it was still good plot story. And I sat there in my car for about 5-10 minutes. I was like, holy shit, that was good.
Yeah.
I had a hard time going to sleep.
It's what movies used to be like.
It was so good. I had a hard time falling asleep.
Yeah, it really was something special. I was really surprised. I didn't know what to expect going in, and I was really, really pleasantly surprised when I walked out of there at just how good a job they did with this one. So, any case. All right. Otherwise on this list, one thing I do want to acknowledge here, a couple of two things really. Trolls band together, $160 million, had I think around a $90 million net budget. Of course, this being a DreamWorks picture, that means that effectively on the animated side for Universal releases, Netflix is picking up the bill for these movies. So again, this doesn't have to be something we knock out of the park. And I'm saying this now because there's a comment that Bob Iger made earlier this week during that Deal Book Summit with the New York Times. Apparently that either Bob doesn't know how his own business works or he's a damn liar. I'll let the audience be the judge. But I'm bringing all this up because all of this is going to set that up. And there's comments on Twitter around this again. I had them saved on my other machine. I'm going to try to transfer them over here so I can pull them up from the laptop. So we got Trolls band together about 160. That's only in its third weekend. We're still coming up to Christmas. People are saying that Migration's opening weekend right now is looking like, that might only be 20 million. I think they've barely started kicking up marketing for that film. So let's wait and see on that one.
Trolls is pulling away from Wish. I think that's the biggest story about Trolls is that it's been out longer.
I'm not surprised.
It's outpacing.
Oh, it's not just it's look. Wish is not going to get to $160 million.
Oh my gosh!
It's not. No, there's no way. I want you to look at the international box office now. That's $40 million over the first 10 days, and that's with international chiming in. And I want to be clear. Even China, Disney's friend. But if you look here, okay, Australia, that's not coming out till in December. Brazil, there's some major markets where it's pushed out. Okay, France and Germany, it's open there now. They're not individually line itemed out in there. Japan, that's a big market potentially for the movie. But when you look at the other big markets that already have opened, Mexico, the UK, China, $3 million, folks. I mean, it's it's probably a little bit more because they haven't calculated everything. And my point is that it's not much. It's not ringing the bells. Okay. And by the time this thing does come out in all these other countries, everybody's already going to the pirate websites that wants to see it and watch it there. I hate to tell you. Not that I support that kind of thing,
why did they let it why did they make it come out so slowly in some of these markets? That doesn't feel wise in this situation.
It's usually up to those markets. What Disney really wants to do is they want to have their big Disney Animation Studios picture come out on Thanksgiving, like they've been doing for years with Frozen and a lot of these other movies. They want that holiday. They want a big Disney animated feature. That they put a big Pixar feature in the summer, put a big Disney Animation Studios feature in Thanksgiving. By forcing it into that Thanksgiving window, generally speaking, they are going to create waves in terms of where they can release it or when they can release it in certain international territories. So that's more or less why. And I mean, Japan, South Korea, we often see those kind of delays. France is another one that's they've kind of had to throw in the towel on because, France has an actual law that says that if you release a movie in the theaters, you can't put it on streaming for at least a year in France. That's how they protect their theaters. And that was a big old fight Disney had years ago when they started opening Disney Plus there. So this is a movie nobody cares about. It's not that good. They're not getting any music coming out of this movie that's hitting like they did at least with Encanto. They had a musical hit that came out of there. But they really haven't done that with Wish. It's like they tried to throw everything against the wall to see what they could get to stick. Nothing stuck. Literally nothing stuck in this movie. And this is a turkey. This is a $200 million Thanksgiving turkey that is cooked. They're going to lose. Yeah, they're going to lose some. They're going to lose north of $200 million on this. So that's why we have the video.
You've heard Chris Gore is reporting that the thing actually cost $250, which blows my mind.
Oh, I got to talk to Chris. I got to see where he saw that one.
Well, he's got sources now speaking to himself and Alan Ng out literally of Disney Animation. So that's where that $250 is coming from.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.